Josh, it's great to talk to you. Thanks for your time today. What's automation doing in the DevSecOps environment now? How are people using successfully automation to manage workflows, to deliver better solutions? Josh, welcome.
Thank you so much. Automation is the foundation of it all, right? We talk about DevSecOps all the time. And sometimes I think it's a term we throw around that has become meaningless in some instances. But when we're really getting down to the nuts and bolts of it all, it's all about automation. You can't have DevSecOps if you don't have automation pushing as much over to the left. I mean, again, shift left is another one of those terms that I think is overused constantly. But in order for it to exist, you have to have everything automated. We have to have as few humans in the loop as possible because the intent is you have your DevSecOps developers doing whatever it is they're going to do, and then they need feedback as fast as possible because if they do their work and then it has to travel through the process to get to the end, and then all of a sudden someone at the very end says, "Oh, you missed a thing," you have to start that over. The intent is that the developer does their thing and then the automation tells them immediately whether it's basically pass or fail. So, like, automation is where it all begins.
What are organizations in government getting right about automating their processes, and where are they maybe not maximizing the potential that exists?
I mean, I think if you look at the software factories we're seeing in places like the DoD and the Navy and Air Force and whatnot, those are getting a lot of this right, where they're doing a ton of work. In fact, a lot of the compliance work you're seeing is going straight from automation right back to the developers of the actual products versus having, the poor schlep who's got to go through the ATO documents and hope they can figure it out. So I think that's like a huge deal, right? And you're seeing that, and that's having an enormous amount of success. I mean, it's obvious why these software factories are catching on at the rate they are, just because they work, right? It's not just talk; it's actually working. And so I think that's what you're starting to see. And there's many organizations that have been talking about DevSecOps for a long time. A lot of agencies, a lot of groups inside of the agencies, and we'll say they've been talking about DevSecOps for a long. There's a difference between talking and doing, and like software factories are doing, and it's amazing.
The benefit that I keep hearing about too from these software factories and or through automation in those software factories is the people that are in them tell me, well, we don't have to think about the processes anymore. We can think about collaboration and we can think about delivering solutions and we can think about how we go about doing those things and so on and so forth.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly right. And this is where you have, automating compliance, automating whatever sort of checks you need for your ATO, making sure you're doing as much of that work as far away from the actual ATO as you need to be doing it. Means once we hit that point, instead of taking days, weeks, or months, we're talking, minutes or maybe hours. It's phenomenal the way you're seeing just pushing all that work. We're literally actually shifting left in this instance instead of saying it, and then we're getting the benefit of it on the right, which is exactly what the intent is.
That was the whole point of it in the beginning. All right, what are some other areas where you see maybe room for improvement as far as maximizing potential in DevSecOps environments, Josh?
I mean, I think now it's just a matter of getting everything started deployed, making sure you've got your developers understanding process, making sure you have the people in the agencies understanding how this has to work, how we have to communicate with each other, because there's a lot of communication that goes back and forth. There's all that automation. Automation is really good at certain things, but you also have to make sure people understand what the automation is and how it needs to work. And so, but that's good, right? Because we're kind of letting people do people things versus having people do things computers are really good at. People are bad at things computers are good at, and computers are bad at things people are good at, right? So it makes logical sense when you do that. And so I think this is where we can see like real good, honest collaboration versus, oh, we have to tick all these stupid boxes. Let's just, get through it as fast as we can so we can move on to the next thing we want to do versus let's let the computer tick the boxes because it's really good at ticking those boxes.
All right, you suggested that humans need to work on how we have to communicate with each other. How do we have to communicate with each other in a DevSecOps environment to get the desired results?
That's always the trick, right? It's easy to say, again, this is like, oh, we'll just shift left, just communicate more, it'll be fine. No, I think this is where having, I won't say automation necessarily, but it's the word that comes to mind. But having, when you have these software factories, you're utilizing tooling like we'll say GitLab or GitHub or some of the development environments. And those give us mechanisms for different people in different stages of the pipelines to be able to communicate back and forth, by filing issues, by automatically failing tests, things like that. And so I think this again comes to by having a very standard and reasonable way for everyone to communicate and having a way that's logged so it can be, viewed later and searched and things like that can be very beneficial. So now if someone farther down the line sees a problem, they can file an issue, the developer can see the issue, and you can come to that common understanding versus, oh, hey, you're failing this test, go fix it. It's like, wait, what? What's going on? I have no idea what's happening. And so it can make a huge difference for sure.
We focus so far on where people are today and what they should be thinking about today. What is coming over the horizon, Josh? What should be on the minds of people who are in this area today about what they might have to deal with a year from now or 2 years from now?
So the thing I like to tell people is this is one of the few instances I think in common memory where I think the government and agencies are truly leading the way. Historically, the government has often been the butt of jokes of being behind in technology and slow and, pick one. We all have our favorite tropes, but these software factories are absolutely amazing. And so I think that kind of the next thing that we're going to see is the expectations that are being built inside of these software factories, inside of these agencies, are going to seep out into the private sector. And so if you're someone working with the government, you're a contractor or whatever, you're going to see these requirements. We're seeing this now with things like, the SSDF attestation questionnaire CISA has put together. We're seeing this with, the executive order where they're making all these requirements of expectations of federal contractors. And so I think, ironically, my expectation is everyone is going to have to start paying attention to this, not just federal agencies, which is amazing and fantastic.
Josh, it's great to talk to you. I appreciate your insight. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Francis. It was fun.